What's going on, guys? Matthew back again, this time for another TV review. Today I'm reviewing Severance Season 2, Episode 6, titled Attila. Let's get into it. The episode starts with Mark talking to the black lady about what he saw, and he compares it to a nightmare. We pick up right where we left off, where he had just seen his wife. He remembered seeing her in the hallway, and he's talking to the black lady. Forgive me for not remembering her name, but he's referring to the white hallways and even this very dark hallway, and the fact that his wife is saying just random facts. And to him, it feels like a nightmare. It feels like hell, which I could definitely see that from his perspective. He has a memory of seeing his wife, who he believes to be dead, and she's almost like a robot, just saying these random facts. We then move to Mark, Helly, and Dylan in the kitchen at Lumen on the Severance floor, and they're discussing the dark hallway and how Dylan found the note that Irv had left him behind the poster of "Just Hang In There," I believe is what it says. And they're kind of confused as to why he didn't keep it and why they won't get started on trying to find the dark hallway, which also confused me as well. Dylan said he didn't want to get in trouble, and then after he left, Helly kind of pushed Mark to get in on it. Mark seemed kind of hesitant as well. Then he goes to the fridge, and we see that he's still having memories because of the reintegration. And it's there that we go back into the title sequence. We then pick up with Milchek, who's sitting in his office contemplating. He's probably still contemplating those weird posters or artist renditions that he got. And it's here that Miss Huang walks in, and they discuss her. First they discuss his meeting that he had the previous day regarding his employment and how good of a job he's doing. And it's here that they discuss how he's still going to be out for the day, and Huang's going to have to take his spot for the day. And he tells her to graduate from this fellowship. You cannot graduate from this fellowship until I deem you winter tide material. I believe that's the first time we've heard the word winter tide. I'm not sure what that means. And he also refers to it as a fellowship. This is more evidence that this is more of a more of a cult. And I guess going forward, we'll have to determine what winter tide is, what all these words mean. Even Cold Harbor, we don't know. They drop all of these words. We have no idea what they mean, but going forward, we'll have to keep a lookout for what winter tide means. We then go back to Mark and Helly, who are hiding in the bathroom, I guess, to stay away from any hidden microphones, which obviously they would be in the bathroom too, but I mean, what are you going to do? I guess that's the best place to hide. But it's here that Mark tells her that they had sex. I was really not expecting this quickly, especially for him to just drop it on her that way. He also referred to it as we shared vessels. I've never heard that before in my life. I guess that's how people like this would refer to it as, considering they really have no idea of the outside world and how people would normally refer to it. But then he refers to it as we had sex. She mistakes him as talking about Milchek, but then he makes it clear that no, he in fact had sex with her Audi Helena. She reacted to it better than I thought she would. After my second viewing, I guess I had a better understanding of it. You would kind of be in shock at hearing that news. When I first saw it, I thought it was weird that Helly was smiling, but then he tried to hold her hand and she pulled away, and she decided to go for a walk. And she walks down the hallway and takes her shoes off. I'm not sure what that means, if it just means that she needed to relax or what, but she takes her shoes off and just kind of sits in the hallway. We then go back to Milchek, who's putting paper clips on the right way, because that was one of the things he was kind of chastised for in his performance review, that he was putting paper clips on different areas of the paper that made it confusing to know which way was front or back. So he takes this huge jar of paper clips and all this paper and decides to practice getting better at putting paper clips on paper. I guess it's just his way of trying to get better at his job. It's very important to him that he has Miss Cobell's position. We remember when earlier in the season, he wanted his name on the computer where it used to say, "Welcome, Miss Cobell." He wants it to say, "Welcome, Mr. Milchek." So this means very much to him. We still don't know if he ever got that on his computer. I assume he did. But yeah, it's here that he begins to put paper clips on paper. And we also see that Dylan is in that room again talking to his wife, and they begin to hug and kiss, and it's very apparent that his wife likes his innie way more than his outie, because he actually cares about his children, cares about her, and is excited about their relationship. We then go back to Haley, who's in the hallway still in a corner crying. It's a very terrible situation for her. This is what I was kind of hoping not to see, even though it was kind of inevitable. I really hate this for her, but I really appreciated the way she handled it. She decided that she was going to do things herself, and she straight up tells Mark that she hates that it wasn't her, that Helena got to have that and she didn't, which is basically what I said 2 reviews ago when this all happened. But she decides to take charge, and she does not want to hear Helena's memory. She wants to make her own memory. So her and Mark decide to find a random room and make like a makeshift tent, and then they have sex. We then move back to Milchek, who finishes the paper clips. He then walks to a nearby mirror, turns on a lamp, and repeats the same words that he had said to Miss Huang earlier, which is, you must eradicate from your essence childish folly. He then repeats it, but changes it just a little bit to say, you must eradicate from yourself childish folly. And then over time, he kind of minimizes it to eradicating childish folly. You must grow up, grow, grow, grow. It wasn't until my second viewing that I noticed that he had also said this to Miss Huang earlier. And I wonder if it's because he recognizes in himself that he's having some kind of temptation that he needs to let go of. I'm not sure what the folly is that he's referring to. Part of me starts to wonder if maybe he has feelings for Helena and he's jealous of Mark. That would go a long way in determining why he acted the way in the elevator with Mark at the end of the last episode, episode 5, when he told her that, or when he told Mark that, does Helly know that you had sex with her outie? That's the only thing I can really determine at this point as to what would really be bothering Milchek, other than those paintings that he got and that he might not feel very welcome. Now, he did tell Natalie in the previous episode before his performance review that maybe you're going through the same thing I am, that maybe you're being treated differently just like I am. But I don't know how that would relate to folly. We'll have to continue to watch Milchek and see what happens with him. We then cut back to Mark and Haley, who are done having sex, and they're walking down the hallway where Haley wants to know, I think she asked, was I better than her? And he just kisses her up against the wall. And it's here that it looks like Haley's bleeding, but it's actually Mark who's bleeding from his nose. Very similar to Petey, who was bleeding from his nose because of reintegration. He ultimately died. We obviously don't want that for Mark. Hopefully the Black Lady will be able to reintegrate him without him ceasing to exist. But it's here that he gets checked by Miss Huang and that he wakes up in his basement even though he was just in Lumen. So he's starting to not only gain memories from the other person, but also lose memories as well. And he's having trouble determining where he is. He wakes up in the basement and he gets frustrated because she tells him that she's going to have to drill into his head and flood it. He doesn't like that idea. He gets frustrated and he leaves because he's starving. She says that's also a part of reintegration, but he decides that he's going to go get something to eat. We then finally cut back to Irving's outie, who has accepted an invitation from Bert to go and eat with him and his boyfriend. So Irving shows up at Bert's house, and it's here that we meet Fields, who's played by the same actor who played Denethor in The Two Towers and Return of the King. Very great actor, and he's really good in this episode. And it's here that we learn more about Bert and Fields' past. We learned that Bert said that Jesus led him to Lumen. Apparently, these two men are Christians of some sort. They were going to a Lutheran church, and Bert did not think that he was going to go to heaven because of his past. He referred to himself as a scoundrel, and Fields said that was putting it mildly. So we don't know exactly what Bert's past was, but it must have been very bad if he felt that he was beyond redemption and going to heaven. And we find out that they went to church that day, and the pastor had said that the church viewed that innies and outies have separate souls. And so they hoped that by Bert joining Lumen and severing himself, that maybe his innie could go to heaven to be with Fields in heaven, and that his outie would be left to burn in hell. Very, very interesting concept. I believe it's the first time that we've heard the name Jesus in this show. I've mentioned it earlier in my previous review regarding the performance review when the big white man, I'm not, if you know his name, let me know in the comments below. The big white guy with blue eyes who was doing the performance review for Milchek held up his hand like this, very, very similar to the Satan statue. I could be looking too much into that, but we have that, and now we have them talking about Jesus, heaven, and hell. We still don't know what's going on. It's very, very interesting what's going on. It kind of relates to the Bible in a lot of ways with goats, and will we see sheep at some point? We have a mention of Jesus Christ. Speaking of that big white guy, we then cut to him who enters a random apartment. He has a very large set of keys, and he uses them to enter this random apartment. We don't see what he looks at, but we will see that in a little bit. We then go back to Dylan, who's eating supper with his wife, Dylan's Audi, and his wife lies to him about the meeting. I'm not sure why. I guess she didn't want to tell him that or let on to the fact that she really likes his Innie more than him. And she's very, very not interested in his Audi at this moment. He's referring to some kind of car work. I don't know what situation they're in where he needs to have a job at Lumen and then also another job, I believe selling cars or test driving cars. But I did notice that they have 2 or 3 children. Maybe they're not making enough money working at Lumen. She also has a job. I can't remember what it is, but if he's working 2 jobs and she also has a job and they have 3 kids, I thought it was very apparent that Lumen pays very well, but we'll have to continue forward with their story to understand, get a better understanding of what their life is like. We cut back to Mark, who is at the Chinese restaurant eating. He's extremely hungry. We see that in the way that he's eating. And it's here that Helena randomly shows up, sits down, and pretends to not be there for him, but that's clearly why she's there. She sees him and walks over, introduces herself, and it's here that we learn that Mark does know who, or Audi Mark knows who Helena Egan is. I don't know if we knew that already, but I certainly didn't, and that's kind of a shock for me. But it's here that she sits down and they talk, and Helena clearly has a crush on him. And like I've said earlier in previous reviews, she's jealous of her Innie, that she gets to have any kind of relationship. And it's here that Helena purposefully says or refers to his wife Gemma as Hannah. She does it on purpose, says the wrong name. It seemed that she was doing that to get a reaction out of Mark. I'm not sure why. That's kind of insulting. I don't know. It's so strange. These people play with these people's emotions, even when they're not at Lumen. I don't know why Helena would do that unless it's just pure jealousy that she would want to insult Mark's supposedly dead wife. But that is very petty and wrong. He stands up to leave and he stares at her and he can tell that he remembers her, but he's not real sure why. It's at this point that he quickly leaves, and it's very clear to the audience that he's scared and believes that he's being tracked. I don't believe that's what it is. Even though she did bring up, she said that she would very much like to know his experience during the overtime contingency, which is when the Innies took over their Audis' bodies while they were not at work. Now, is she there because she has a crush on him? Is she there just for that reason to know what he knows about the overtime contingency? I believe it's a little bit of both. I believe that business-wise, she had to be there for the overtime contingency information, but I do believe that she really does have a crush on him. She probably has no relationship at all in her real life, and she kind of wants that and misses that moment that she had with Mark at the Ortbo. We go back to the white guy who's at that random apartment. He's looking through these random papers, and it lists all these people that are severed that work at Lumen. There are little notes here and there, and we see Bert's name, we see Dylan's name, and we see Irving's name at one point. And I was looking at it very closely, but I couldn't really notice anything that stood out to me informational-wise, other than like people's addresses, little notes, like I said earlier. But the music really ramped up at one point on the last piece of paper, as if there was like some kind of revelation. I'm not sure what it was. If you know what was on the piece of paper that I missed, let me know in the comments below, please, because I have no idea what it was. But it's here that we We see Bert's name. We then transition back to Bert, who tells the story of how him and Fields call each other Attila, which is the name of the episode. Basically, for 10 years, they had been calling each other Hun, or short for Honey, and they switched that to Attila, a little play on word for Attila the Hun. If you know your history, he was like some crazy maniac who killed a bunch of people. I'm not real sure, but I'm not sure what the purpose of naming the episode Attila is, unless there's like something very meaningful regarding Fields and Bert's relationship, which, according to how this episode ends, there's really something weird going on there. We see that, they've been calling each other Attila for 10 years, but Fields says it's been 20. But the first Severance office didn't open until 12 years ago. So apparently Bert has been working for Lumen for 20 years, even though the first office didn't open up until 12 years ago. So Fields accidentally let something slip there regarding Bert's employment with Lumen, and how maybe Bert's not severed at all. Maybe he's just completely pretending to be severed, and he knows everything that's been happening. The whole time he was on the severed floor, that relationship with Bert, or with Irv, I'm not sure what's going on, but clearly there's something big going on with Bert and his relationship to the Lumen company. We then cut back to Mark, who comes back to his house. He apologizes to the black lady for being a dick and decides to go through with the procedure. So she cuts open his head, drills in there, puts in that substance to cloud the device that is in his brain. And it's here that he sees a memory of having sex with Helly at the makeshift tent on the severed floor. He's very surprised by it. He sits back and says, "What the hell?" He moves too quickly, which she probably should have told him beforehand. Or maybe she did. Maybe I'm forgetting that he's not supposed to really move a lot after this procedure. But it's here that Devin shows up, and he has to go talk to her because he knows that she knows his car's in the yard and that he's at home. So he goes to answer the door. And it's here that Devin begins to bring up that pregnant lady from season 1 that some suspect was severed for the purpose of not having to go through the pain of pregnancy. She could just get pregnant and then wake up and the baby's already born, which is a very strange thing to do. I think many women would say that going through that ordeal is a very important step. But anyway, that's kind of off topic, but I thought it was strange that that was brought up. And there's, again, when it comes to very well written and directed shows like this, every single thing has a purpose. Going all the way back to that strange bird that was flying around behind Helena in episode, I believe, episode 4, when they were on the Ortbo. Everything has a purpose. So there's a reason why Devin brought up that pregnant lady. And it's here that Mark starts to kind of freak out. He's sweating a lot because of what just happened with that procedure. And he says, "What's that smell?" Clearly having some brain issues. And he looks down his glass of water and begins to slowly push it. I'm not sure what that signifies. I'm not sure what that means. But he then begins to seize, fall over, and foam at the mouth. The black lady comes out of the basement, scaring Devin, and they hold on to him as he seizes and foams at the mouth. It's here we cut to the final scene of this episode where Irv is leaving Bert's, and Bert looks very suspicious as Irv leaves. Bert is trying to play off the fact that Fields had just said that Bert worked at Lumen for 20 years, even though the first office didn't open up till 12 years ago. And we cannot forget that Audi Irving, who is what we're watching here, he's working for someone, whoever he's talking to on that payphone. He seems to be kind of a spy or investigator. He's playing Bert, and I think Bert knows he's playing him. Again, we'll have to see where this goes. This seems to be, at the moment, the most important thing with this show and getting information regarding to what Lumen is up to. But that's where the episode ends. I have a note here. We have not seen Miss Cobell for 3 straight episodes. The last time we saw her, she was walking to the car with Helena. got really scared that Helena was going to have her killed, or worse, maybe made into some kind of brain slave or something. But she gets scared and leaves, and we have not seen her for the last 3 episodes. I'm expecting Miss Cobell to show up at some point and save somebody with some crazy information, probably roll up and hit somebody with a car or something like that. But very interesting. We haven't seen her for 3 episodes. She's going to have a huge impact, I think, before this season is over. She's going to drop some crazy information or something like that. But guys, that is episode 6 of season 2 of Severance, titled Attila. If I miss anything, please let me know in the comments below. Please like this video, please subscribe, and we'll catch you guys next time. Take it easy.